So I got a haircut, if you didn't notice. My brother, who watched the first 3 episodes of this series, was like, oh, I see what you're doing. At first your hair is like kind of scraggly, and then as you progress it through the series to the end, it's like ends up super scraggly. And I was like, actually, that's kind of not a bad idea. But by that time I had already cut it, so not gonna happen that way. I actually gave myself this haircut. I've been giving myself haircuts for a while now. Even pre-COVID, I was giving myself haircuts, just kind of getting into it. And I tried it one time. Kind of liked being able to have that control, and also it's just a fun kind of almost therapeutic thing to do. I mean, at first, my first few cuts were pretty rough, but after probably like the 5th or 10th haircut, I started figuring out how my hair is, how my hair grows, like how my head is shaped, and how the clippers cut and how the scissors cut, and started giving myself some scissor cuts sometimes, and cutting my kids' hair and cutting my wife's hair a little bit. She cuts her own hair. She cuts other people's hair sometimes. And I see lots of different examples of these kinds of activities that probably over the last like quarter or half century, like 50 years, that we've really begun to outsource. So lawn care, like mowing or raking or blowing leaves, or sweeping our deck, even organizing our house, cleaning our house, cleaning our car, like knitting or making a sweater, or growing your own food, like having a garden, or even having chickens and getting eggs, or just making a fence. All of those activities, a lot of household related activities, a lot of like personal care activities have been outsourced over time. And it's kind of a bummer, because I think that those activities actually do have some kind of value to us. So when I'm in Chapel Hill, it's rare that I'll see someone actually raking their leaves. Like, it's fall, and it would be, it's kind of nice the idea of somebody raking their leaves, and maybe in a storybook you would see a picture of somebody raking their leaves, but that actually isn't the case so much anymore. More often nowadays, what you see is, or what you hear actually is, somebody mowing the lawn or blowing the leaves with a small engine powered machine. Just raking leaves. I actually raked the leaves back in my house in Chapel Hill last weekend, and there's something like just therapeutic about it, or even cathartic about it. There's definitely a Zen-like quality about it. I remember in Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, Levin, who's, I think he's like part of the aristocracy, kind of breaks with tradition and goes out to plow the field with a scythe. So just all day, I think he goes out and spends a week with the muziks, which are basically serfs in Russia, and goes out there and cuts grass with a scythe all day, mows the grass. And he talks about this. So Tolstoy talks about this. So this isn't like a super novel idea per se. It's just something that I've noticed over the last few decades. We've begun to retreat from those kind of activities. And I think while our time is important, and I do think we spend our time doing important things still, I think we shouldn't discredit the value of those more mundane activities, like cutting your own hair or sweeping your kitchen floor. lots of changes out here this time. Obviously, it's fall. The leaves are changing. It's really pretty. But also the animals are changing. I'm noticing different animals out here than there were, especially over the summer. One of the things, though, that I'm always kind of looking forward to seeing the changes in is the creek. You may have noticed where I'm getting the water from the creek right now is from under a little waterfall that actually formed. The water's starting to go over the log instead of under the log. And what dictates the creek's path is the creek will continually erode soil until it hits bedrock. And then once it hits bedrock, it'll still erode the bedrock, but it takes like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years to do that. So that's essentially where the creek is going to flow. Like, it would be a real shock if I came here and the creek was like 20 feet up the hill. But I feel like that's a good metaphor for our own lives, in that while we try to avoid these major changes that happen, maybe an earthquake happens and I come here and the creek is 20 feet up the hill. We, just like the creek is dictated by its path through the rocks, our lives are dictated through the grounding principles and beliefs that we uphold. So we may incur some changes. We might go to the left, or we might go under the bush, or we might go through the patch of leaves, or it might get blocked up and we might go around it. I think the creek is a metaphor for our own lives, and I think the amount of flexibility that we're going to need to embrace in our lives is only set to increase if we want to stay happy and healthy and productive. This metaphor really coincides with the book I'm reading right now called Rise of the Robots by Martin Ford. In the book, the main thesis is that technology, robots, automation is going to greatly influence our society. It's going to change. It's going to radically change the landscape of our society, especially in terms of joblessness. So the idea is that lots of the jobs that we currently enjoy are going to evaporate with the rise of automation. And although there are some contrarian thinkers, such as the PayPal co-founder, along with Elon Musk, a guy named Peter Thiel, he kind of suggests that the pace of development and technology is way overblown. I tend to side with Martin Ford and other thinkers like Andrew Yang, who do embrace this joblessness thesis. I just can't help but see it in my own life. I see it in the retail sector, where you don't have anybody actually selling you stuff in a store anymore. I see it in the grocery store, when the grocery store aisle checkout person is replaced by a computer. I just read about Uber. It's certainly in Uber's best interests if they can eliminate all human drivers from their enterprise. It would most likely increase efficiency, reduce costs, all of those principles that are geared towards increasing share price and improving the bottom line. And that's what in a capitalist democracy, that's the name of the game. That's the goal. I think that we're going to be faced with some major changes, and I think while it's tempting to suggest that these major changes are coming as a result of COVID, I don't fully subscribe to that idea, because I think the undercurrent of technology changing jobs and resulting in widespread unemployment is the main driver of that. I don't think that I think COVID was merely an accelerator. I don't think it was the root cause. And although COVID hopefully will go away, we're set to see continued job loss moving into the future. And I think that it's not like an apocalyptic kind of thing. We don't have to think about it that way. I think it's better if we try to provide solutions. Some people who are doing that, like the presidential candidate Andrew Yang, has some ideas. I don't really know if I fully agree with universal basic income, which is his solution, but I think just the mere fact that there are people out there trying to arrive at solutions or present solutions is really a good thing. But getting back to the creek metaphor, this variability, this flexibility that we're going to need to embrace in order to sustain the vicissitude that is surely on the way. If we can be like the creek, if we can be flexible and change path like the creek, and still flow and still make it to the destination, then I think that we will be much better off. In my own life, in my own experience, I've had to really embrace flexibility. And at first it was like, whoa, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just find a career and settle down and start like making progress on this set trajectory? So I started off working construction over the summers while I was in school. I became a basic skills English teacher at a local community college. Then I created an educational web application called Read Theory, and then now I do commercial real estate, sales acquisition and management. And although those may seem similar, especially the teaching English and the education app, they're all really pretty different. The teaching was not really similar to Read Theory at all. And teaching, I was standing up in front of a classroom, and Read Theory, I was sitting behind a computer, which is why I'm out here so much now, because I did that for 8 years. But while throughout that career and throughout those many different changes, I definitely had this thing looming in the back of my mind saying, why can't you get it together? Why can't you figure out what you were meant to do and like get on that career path and like, you know, start climbing the ladder on that career? And that kind of thinking definitely plagued me. And it wasn't until recently, until I sold Read Theory and kind of started to embrace the idea that, hey, my life is not going to be just one path. It's going to be variable, and that's okay. Obviously, I think there will remain some careers and some job paths that for the foreseeable future will remain pretty steady, such as attorney or physician. But by and large, I think most of us can anticipate a significant degree of variability in our lives and our careers. Well, that does it for this time. Gosh, it felt good to finally get that roof complete. Needless to say, it was way more work than I had anticipated. I actually came out here thinking that I would get it done in one visit. That's how naive I was. It took 4. Yeah, this is the 4th video in this series. So the first 4 videos were really spent addressing the roof. But I learned a lot. That's about all. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.